going to tell the Aaron Hassay story. This is Aaron Hassay, here from the other side. I'm going to explain Aaron Hassay, which is in the news and in federal court, trying to explain my life, right? This is me. And how did it get to this? And now I'm battling back, right? Putting my life together. I'm in a federal lawsuit. And you can just see this right here. Look at this. This is literally a statement from court. Only the first of these criteria discussed in detail here, in compliance with the order of the COFC, Court of Federal Claims, it is clear from the evidence, with the benefit of hindsight, that your medical condition imposed no requirements on the military, not just the Navy, the military, Department of Defense, the government, United States, not just the Navy, but the military, to maintain or protect you. And there was nothing about your established duties in the USNR, the Navy, which consistently primarily weekend drills during which you excel, which would weigh in favor of findings of unfitness. Anyways, they're gonna wordplay on steroids, but this is their one of their late statements in the federal court system. So they had no duty to protect you or maintain you, and all your military experience was training, right? Training. How to take this kid and how that happened, and training and not protect him. Well, we're gonna find out. It's experimental units shut down by the government to underman combat ships. There's plenty of reports about it. They won't discuss it in federal court. They say there's no requirement to protect you or maintain you with the benefit of hindsight, when they see the reports of these experimental combat ships undermanning them. Anyways, it was insane, and I tried to transfer the Army to get out of it. You'll see the government even will try to whitewash that, and you get nothing. No, it was totally normal, totally acceptable, totally we the people, right? The Constitution. Let's go into detail, because we're going to use Navy SEAL, some Navy SEAL concepts of that they use in their own words, to consider how extreme this gets, which is Hell Week. Start with Hell Week. Little clip.
Go. Somebody says, why Hell Week? Why not Hell 3 days? Why not 7 days? Why 5 days? At this point, nobody's going to quit. They'll stay here and they'll die if we let them.
So that's Hell Week. Why not 2 hours? Why not 2 days? Why not 3 hours, 3 days, or 4 hours, or 5 weeks of hell? Why just 5 days? Because they just need that to prove that you're not going to go around. What about 8 years of part-time hell? I mean, that was my experience. What about many years of hell? Unprotected, unmaintained, unprotected and unmaintained, when they confirmed that they had no requirement to protect you or maintain you. No matter how honorable, they'll actually use your honorable service against you. You're going to see, they said, oh, you were so well acting. You gave us everything. Never complained. No matter what your medical conditions we documented on you, you major depression, bipolar, spine problem, musculoskeletal, psychiatric problems, whatever. Getting your brain fried in your training, as you see training, and the Hell Week kind of concept, that they would not have any idea to protect you or maintain you. So let's go consider that was Hell Week. Let's see how they handle some guys. And Budge.
3 whistles, stand up. Without realizing it, they have begun to ignore distractions and react to commands.
I'm looking at some stress-related injuries to his legs, to his ankles, and Still swelling on his knees, too.
Come on, man. You only got about another 10 more feet. Come on.
Still hanging in there.
Come on, it's sucking you in. Come on, spot right here. Come on.
And lastly, let's see.
Training for another 24 weeks. The class will be medically examined twice during the next 24 hours. Roberts and Ashlock each finish Hell Week despite broken legs. They will be medically rolled out, leaving class 234 with 19 students to carry on. No one in class 234 can predict.
So essentially, yeah, they're just training you, break your legs, whatever, you know, and then whatever. I mean, break your mind, whatever, and not, you know, like roll you back or whatever. But that's the extreme measures, and I'm going to show you with Navy SEALs buds. Very interesting because you can get out of it. Like,
surprised if you get one or two quitters the first day during the first evolutions.
The first 3 weeks of Phase 1 are intentionally designed to filter out students lacking the emotional commitment needed to become SEALs.
Up there, ring it 3 times, just place your helmet at the base. So if you have your questions, then this would be the appropriate time. Are you down with it? Are you full? Okay, go ahead, ring out.
Dropping on request affects students differently. Some are relieved, some are embarrassed, most feel regret. For Class 234, the row of helmets will be a daily...
Surprised if you get one or
so what you're seeing is that in buds or Navy SEAL training, I was never a Navy SEAL, but I'm just explaining that there's many other options for training, but this training in particular, buds, you can ring a bell, drop on request, and get out of it and go back to something less extreme. But there's certain training, or at least the training I went through, there's no bell to ring, there's no knowledge given, there's no way to remove yourself, so you're stuck. No matter how extreme the 2 or 3 days or 2 weeks of hell that they give you every month. In the reserves, I was in the reserves for 8 years. They just pound you and send you home. Broken mess. That should be obviously a real simple concept. That shouldn't be hard to explain. But to the government, that makes no sense. They're like, we had no idea to protect you in the reserves. We can just pound the shit out of you forever. Send you home, out of sight, out of mind. No medical evaluation, no medical, awareness that we're injuring you. Because when you go home, there's no medical monitoring, no monitoring going on. You're just like seasick or something, or injured, not feeling well, stressed out, having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I did actually complain of that on paper, and I tried to transfer to the Army to get out of it. And again, you see how they handled it. You're going to see how they handled it. And they're still handling it. It's like, fuck. Dude, hidden records, multiple departments, agencies, Army, Navy, Department of Defense, the United States in general. The defendant is the United States. So when I talk like this, and I think, I touch myself. I think, like, dude, they want you to injure yourself because, like, they want you to injure yourself. It's sort of like built into the system, and the Department of Justice will, we'll even say there's no reason to, like, help you. And although you swore an oath to defend the Constitution meaning your human rights, meaning we the people, first 10 amendments, Constitution meaning, like, you have rights, you're human, you're not just a piece of meat to be tortured to protect your own country and then forgotten, put in the streets. Here it is. And then the government's going to say, well, we had no idea or requirement to protect you or maintain you against all common sense of all the premises of military service, all the common sense. I mean, they can supercharge you, injure you psychiatrically or mentally or physically, with stress fractures and other things, and just like send you home. Which again, you know that battle's going on the internet, but they in my case, it's like being, like how wrong that is. They don't want that to happen, homeless veterans and everything, but when you go to court, they defend the government like, oh, we know that happened to you, but it wasn't extreme enough, and or we had no idea to protect you or maintain you. You know, excuse. Like, all I'm asking for is something called TRICARE, or back pay for disability, called a disability retirement, disability severance, as opposed to an honorable. So they gave me an honorable, meaning, you know, you completed everything and you were a perfect sailor, you never complained. Just like those guys dragging their legs in training. They're dragging their legs, they're crippled, they can't even walk, they have stress fractures. Well, there's a lot of other ways to injure someone, send them home crippled mentally. And you're going to see I was assigned to a ship part-time and under manship with a reserve contract that would never get active duty days. The VA even fought me. The VA fought me from my own veteran status, which went all the way to the Board of Veteran Appeals, and they tried to kick me out of the VA when I finally got there, just because I didn't have enough active duty days. They wrote the contract for employment in the military that they wrote it so that when you finally need help, you go to the VA, whenever you make it there, say, I need help, whatever. They say, you're a reservist and you don't have enough active duty days. All they have is honorable discharge. That will be its own fight, separate than just dealing with your military service. Like, your contract will be an issue, no matter if it's honorable discharge. The Navy will never, and then you're going to find out, my enlistment was called the Sea Air Marine Program. The government gave up on it the same year I signed it. So it was just around for 10 years in the military. They enlisted, they rebuilt it up, they recruited, they used this enlistment package. Essentially what it was a program where you sign up for reserves, you go to boot camp, regular boot camp, you're one of 100 plus recruits in boot camp, and you find out that you're one of only a couple guys in the boot camp company have this enlistment package. Everyone else has a normal active duty contract. You're one of two or three, I remember, Riser and another guy in boot camp that had a Sea Air Mariner package, meaning you're less than 1%. You're a fraction of 1% of the boot camp company that has this enlistment package. Very rare, very unique, and the government was giving up on it, setting it down. You were the last recruited class, 1994. Department of Defense instructions actually show that. You're going to see all this in here. I'm going to try to upload this because these facts of a broken system, a broken contract, a broken enlistment package, all that stuff is not going to make it in the federal lawsuit. They don't care if it's experimental, shutdown unit. Not going to try to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. It's too confusing for them. Although there's like 30 government reports about this program, they can't. Similar to like if they had a jet and air wing and say, we need 10 guys, we're going to give you 2 guys, 3 guys, 4 guys, because we want to save money, and we're not going to monitor the effects on the guys and the problems. We're going to be reservist. You know, imagine if it happened to an air wing, like a jet. Of course something's going to go wrong. You're going to injure the guys. You can pretend that things are okay, but you're stressing everyone out. You gave them less manpower. Well, do that to a Navy combat ship, same problem. I'm just trying to talk about it in normal terms, but in this case, here I am, and we're going to go through a little. Now, I questioned you can see I questioned the military community on a website that I'm no longer on. They won't let me post on there anymore. Rally Point. Veteran military website. It's like a Facebook for the military. I said, hey, am I the only Navy sailor ever in the history of the Navy to live in Wilson? Or I did. These guys chimed in. Lieutenant Commander Rabbi Matlow. If the program was discontinued, it's a good thing. It was an atrocious program. I totally agree, Rabbi Jarm. A terrible program unless you augment it when active. and there was no real training for the majority of reservists, and they would get no real benefits at the end of their enlistment period. Glad it's been disbanded. I don't know who thought of this one up, but that person goes under diabolical genius category. Imagine if you signed that program, didn't know any of this. These guys are master chiefs and lieutenant commanders, and they're enough bravery to chime in, give me a objective viewpoint, and looked into it. Yeah, I was in that program, but the military government doesn't want to talk about it. Here's the ship I was on, and that just might be a normal day. That might be a normal day. That was the ship I was on. So with that enlistment package, a part-time reserve enlistment, I was assigned to this ship. I'm doing this. I was up here and all over the place, dangerous, stressful, and part-time. So in 48 hours doing this, 48 hours, 2 days, a week, a month, at a minimum, at sea, going that fast, pounding, you're feeling like shit. They send you home and say that was training, and you're like in survival mode the whole time. You don't feel normal, it's abnormal, and then they send you home, like being on a spaceship and then going to the moon and coming and sending you home in 48 hours, and you're like, what happened to you? Well, you're so confused, you have no idea to talk about it. The government studies this thing. It's called clinical signs, symptoms, profiles associated with combat stress reactions. There's another term for it. Stress disorder. Here's the whole situation. I don't know if you can see that, but it says, what is a combat operational stress reaction? It is a military analog of ASR. Department of Defense defines CSR's physical, emotional, cognitive, behavioral actions, adverse consequences, or psychological injuries of service members who have been exposed to stressful or traumatic events in combat or military operations or training, right? Hell week, hell 2 days, hell 1 hour, hell, whatever. And if you're in a program like my reserve program, they won't acknowledge their own science, and then they'll just, they'll say you never needed help. We had no idea to protect you or maintain you. So imagine that's the final answer, like your girlfriend or your wife saying, we took everything and you get nothing. We had no idea to protect you. What kind of contract is that? Employment or love contract or military enlistment contract? That would be the government's answer. No idea to protect you or maintain you. You saw that. And I'm trying to give you the bare bones. I could go on and on and on. But federal law poster, you'll never see this. All of their federal employees are protected by this poster. Posted everywhere. Federal laws. Every employee in the world is protected by this. Something called workers' comp. Workers' comp, no fault insurance. Basically, you're injured, you can go, and I don't have to prove I was injured by that job, but I'm injured, I need rehabilitation or whatever. No fault insurance, they'll give you workers' comp. But in the military, they'll fight you, they won't discuss what your training is. They'll say they have no requirement to help you. I'm going to try to go straight to the point here because I don't want to overdo this, but there is plenty on here. I could go on and on and on. Let's just go through it quick. So when you join the military, you swear an oath to defend the Constitution, we the people, which the government interprets to mean abandon him, or otherwise there's no requirement to protect you or maintain you, is another statement they made. They denied my benefits for years, and I'm trying to correct it. We the people. The government, you swear an oath to defend the Constitution, but they interpret this, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide a common defense, promote general welfare, secure lasting liberty of ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. But they interpret this to mean we have no requirement to protect you as posterity, to our posterity, like the kids or the youth people, no idea to protect you, maintain you in the military after we put you through hell week, hell 2 days, hell 1 hour. No concept to protect you or maintain you. With any, I mean, that's, you gotta wonder why it would confuse anyone. So the oath of enlistment, here's the oath of enlistment. And then you go in, I just had to compare this to something called UCMJ. UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, cruelty and maltreatment. Any person is chapter who is guilty of cruelty toward oppression or maltreatment of a person subject to order shall be punished as a court-martial may direct. So, I mean, again, sort of using synonymous terms, but when you say there's no idea to protect you or maintain you, and you're going through extreme stress, training that is in a shutdown program, the government doesn't want to talk about. That to me is similar to cruelty, oppression, maltreatment. Here it is, outlawed in the UCMJ. But if you don't even know that as your kid, because you're not educated on it, they don't educate you this in boot camp. And imagine you brought that claim, they'd probably throw it out. But you're saying, dude, I mean, now I'm just talking about it without having to worry about, being targeted for making, in the military, that would be a hard thing to bring up. They would probably find a way to nuke it, throw it in, go after the person complaining of maltreatment, or oppression or cruelty. They would, if a young service member says, I'm being maltreated, oppressed, or experiencing cruelty, and they brought that claim in the military for the UCMJ, protecting that kid, you think the command might, who knows what would happen, but I've never seen these claims brought up, but that is a law. I mean, that's a UCMJ thing. First Amendment. We're going to go into 13th Amendment. Another thing about this whole situation is neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime, where the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or place subject to their jurisdiction. So basically, the only job in the military, and the only job in the government that's a job you can't get out of willfully, and willful employment, is the military. You sign a contract, you can't remove yourself willfully. It's you're in an 8-year contract, reserve contract. You can't just walk away, right? Under threat of punishment, bad conduct, discharge, something that will be punitive, even if they're torturing you and sending you home and they're not protecting you or maintaining you, and they're paying you literally nothing, and you're under this extreme stress of this reserve contract assigned to that ship. Again, you can't get out of the contract, which it seems like the 13th Amendment says punishment for involuntary services. That is outlawed by the 13th Amendment. The military should know that. Another thing, the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States subject to jurisdiction of their citizens of the United States wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce a law which shall deprive the privileges and immunity of citizens of the United States, or shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, or deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of law. So again, think about like employment law, workers' comp law, for injuries to the job. It's called, which was that federal thing I showed you earlier, with the workers' comp laws, where you're protected from injury from a job, no fault insurance. But in the military, which goes to this, they counter all that. I mean, this would be the reason you should benefit from life, protecting your life, liberty, your property being. And there is a lawsuit that's going on right now that my lawyer, Jason Mann, won. I think it's Ford, and they said your benefits of disability are a property that deserves due process. Yes, your benefits of an injury are a property, and so this is something I'll bring up in another film. But this right here is the 14th Amendment. I have to go over the Ford case, but we're going to go through this as quick as possible. Here is a interesting one. So I'm in lawsuit, and you'll see that in the same court system, I found out Court of Federal Claims, Deanna McCasto, individual plaintiffs, Deanna Casio, Patricia Barrett, formerly served as commission officers of the United States Public Health. Officers that I didn't know that the government had officers that never went to military boot camp, were actually are still under protected for disability under the same thing as military law. But these people are getting military disability. Here it is. Upon determination, Secretary concerned eligible service members unfit to perform duties of members' office grade rank because of physical disability incurred while entitled to basic pay. The Secretary may retire the member with retired pay. 10 U.S.C., which is military law. I just never knew that these nurses or whatever that are under the United States public health system can get VA benefits, and they're educated. They're actually already medical staff. They're not 18-year-old boot camp kids who have no idea about medical problems or benefits associated with medical problems. These are nurses. These are educated people, and they get injured at being a nurse, and they're stressed out, knee injury, whatever. You're gonna see they put in that claim quick. They're taken serious, and you'll see. Something here, basically they get their severance. What I was trying to do is someone of them got it claimed, they got a couple $100,000 in severance pay. You can read this case online, but but if you're in the military at 18, you're getting pounded, you have no medical training or medical knowledge, you can't discuss things properly, you have a hard time proving your claim, you don't get the right documents in your medical records, you're not going to be treated equally to nurses who didn't even go to boot camp, who are under the same law. They're going to get all their benefits taken care of and taken serious. Again, not be homeless. They're not go homeless because they didn't miss benefits or 1 day or 2 years, but they're going to get their benefits real quick. So let's keep on going. This is something that came out of one of my files. Mr. Salmon, their last name, Los Angeles pathology related spine is documented disability related to a spine for military records shared in 1998. This is when my back finally blew out 10 plus years ago when I couldn't walk, and I went to the MRI and I got a diagnosis. Prior to surgery, this patient will need a note from his psychiatrist confirming ongoing psychiatric care in the patient's mental state and stable for surgery. I was unstable, and this is the spine, musculoskeletal, and psych were the reasons the Army didn't take me out of the Navy. Department of Defense, you'll see that in these records. But they didn't treat me. They didn't treat me, and they had no, as they'd say, no requirement to maintain me or protect me, as you've seen. So my issues were never helped. Now I'm questioning all that, and they're still confirming that there's no requirement to help for an occupational injury from their own duty assignment. So this seems like it breaks all norms, all common sense, right? Obviously. And I'm just trying to explain common sense. Enemies, foreign, domestic, when you sign the oath of enlistment. Would an enemy do that? Enemies, foreign, domestic? Foreign and domestic enemies. Would they injure you in a military assignment? Give you no benefits? And then fight you for admission of help? Say there's no requirement? An enemy would do that. Not going to go into that too much. I said that the enlistment that I signed, here it is. This is just the year I signed, 1994. There's 900 out of 900 out of 113,000 reservists. Sierra Mariner program, non-prior service ascension program inaugurated in 1984, 10 years previous. Helped enable reserve meets junior enlisted personnel and mobilization requirements, drawing down to maximize retention space for highly trained, skilled veteran personnel. An offshoot of this program, Sierra Mariner 2, was developed specifically to place individuals serving 2 years on initial active duty training aboard FFT class ships with the cancellation FFT program. The SAM-2 program draws down in 1994. 1994 is the year I joined. They're shutting down anything to do with that program. And you're stuck in it for 8 years. It's like going to college, getting accepted to Stanford, and find out when you get there, they were tearing Stanford down. There's no instructors for it. But you're stuck there. And it's punishing. It's a similar analogy. And that's what I found out later. That's why I knew something was wrong when it was going on. And I tried to get out of it by transferring to the Army a few years into it. And the government wasn't even knowing this or discussing this. The program I joined, this is not active duty. This is the 100,000 plus reservists are all prior active duty. The only people that were not prior active duty were the Sierra Mariners, which was less than 1%, percentage of a percent. So I was a percentage of a percentage of a percentage, considering when there's active duty, which is like 3 or 4 or 500,000 people in the Navy at the time. And I was this Sierra Mariner, one of 900 in all of the Navy. Didn't even meet another Sierra Mariner except in boot camp, especially on the ship. Never met another one in the Navy, the whole time in the Navy. Such a rare experience. And that's why I'm like, troubled by this thing. I'm gonna, there's something to do with, here's experiences, Sierra Mariner program, you can see. And then there's Sierra Mariner 2, which was the 8-year military obligation. The first 2 years were spent on a ship. So they had 2 formulations of the Sierra Mariner program. One was specifically made for FFT, a fast frigate trainer, the old FF class, not the new FFGs, but there was an FFT, FF fast frigate. They only took a couple ships and they were making them trainers, and then there's 2 versions of the Sierra Mariner program. I had the one that wasn't assigned, made specifically for the FFT, but they still assigned me to an FFG, which was the upgraded class, which didn't have a training program for you, and there was no active duty time, enough 2 years, which they made for the other system, which you never got, which again will come to bite you in the ass at the VA, because the VA is like, oh, you don't have enough active duty time, so you can't be here. And then that was another fight. They assigned me to a ship part-time, never getting the right amount of active duty time, for the right amount of training, for the right amount of active duty qualifications to go to the VA. Enter you, then go and say that you can't go to the VA. You have to fight the VA, which I did. And there's records on that. I'll have to put them in here. I went to Atlanta Health Administration Center, HEC, had Vietnam vets, Jerry Mapp and Captain Wong, both Vietnam era guys, said this is wrong, and they came and sat in on the meeting and protected me. This is years ago now. Just to stay in the VA system. Again, they want to kick me out of the VA system because this program didn't get enough active duty days. You're not told that when you sign the contract. There's clauses in there that, you don't get enough active duty days. They don't tell you that. So, again, all shock, all awe when you're going through this. Here's the regular Sea Air Mariner program. I had this one, not specifically made for a ship. And then this rare other subcategory of the Sea Air Mariner 2, made specifically for a frigate trainer. Again, I didn't have the Sea Air Mariner 2 program, but they used me and still assigned me to a ship part-time. Not enough active duty days, not enough training, which is why you went had a hard time. Not enough training. It's like throwing you right into an NFL game part-time and saying, oh, he'll survive for 48 hours, which goes to this Navy SEAL thing, what Hell Week is. Hell 3 days, hell 2 hours, hell 48 hours, hell 3 hours, hell 2 years, hell 10 years. It's all relative to what you're experiencing. Let's go into some psychology stuff. The allegory of the cave, what they tell you at boot camp, what they tell you in regular life. Like, you get all these things, they put all the images on the wall and say, oh yeah, dude, it's going to be like this and this and that. You're not exposed to reality until you get up here when they find out it was all fake, or but they gave you this image in boot camp, image and training down here in the cave. We finally got to this area up here, and then you're exposed to the light. That's the allegory of the cave. From what the initial indoctrination is, which could be really fucked up, to the fact that now you're exposed to the light, which I made this website about, or this thing. Now, Navy discipline, flogging used to be a punishment. What if you were a nice guy? But they would still flog you. They had other punishments too. Dante's Inferno. What is that? Well, it's like how many levels of hell, I guess. Treachery, fraudulence, violence, heretics, wrathful, greedy, gluttons, lustful, limbo. All this is levels that you would experience in the Sea Air Mariner program, that they don't want to discuss, because so they don't want to actually have any what they call liability. They don't want to talk about that. Probably similar to like Agent Orange and stuff like that. I bring up the Odyssey of Homer. The guy disappeared for 10 years, I believe. Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, I believe it was, Trojan War. And he came back. He survived it. Family thought he was dead. And long story short, he came back to take his throne back. I can relate to that in a way, right? I can relate to that. And the Odyssey, there was the sirens, probably similar to the cave, the allegory of the cave, a lot of confusion. Here's that might be the Odyssey too, but some other mythical things, Imagine, the government could really do some things. Other Navy history of how they used to treat each other on Navy ships. A lot of going on here, man. The undercurrent. Another thing I learned about is you can put a kid in thing and give him learned helplessness, meaning such a stacked deck against him, like in these programs, and then he feels helpless. He just, he goes inward. He doesn't know how to go outward and project and get into the fight. He's always worried, fighting on his back foot. Learned helplessness. When you're on a ship like that, you're gonna feel helpless. You're gonna retract into your own mind. There's only survival, part-time. Like being thrown into if that was the equivalent if you pick that guy and say, only put you in a game part-time, only give you part-time training, and you're going to go smash mouth with these guys that are training full-time, that have full-time benefits. And we're in the football game lasts 48 hours, not a couple hours, but like 2 days straight. And then you send him home, and he's confused that he's trying to do all these team things and everything, and he's just so confused, and they send him home a wreck. That would be the equivalent of a Navy experience, where you blast him for a couple of days, send him home, and because he's part-time, you give him no help, no requirement to maintain him or protect him, as you've seen in the other thing. Insane, diabolical, things, mission impossible, as you'd say. Impossible mission. I don't know if that's just treachery. Imagine, the equivalent of your being on the ship is that you were on a firefighting team. This is part of the thing you would do on the ship, is firefighting training. But, if you don't have much experience and you don't get enough experience, you're just going to feel like this is dangerous and harmful. And, putting these are same kind of suits I would wear on the ship for firefighting. Just for training, combat training. And then send you home with a panic attack. I think it's normal. No, you gotta say this is crazy. Okay, we're almost done, I think. Well, we'll see. Navigating the Navy Disability Evaluation System. This report was written in 1994, I believe. Found it maybe 2003, but it's a captain in the Navy, Captain Bruce Barron, United States Navy Reserve. So these guys are educated medical doctors. He's doing a review of the disability system in the Navy, and he's saying we're not training it. You can see if you have received formal training with respect to assessment of medical impairment and disability, they're not even trained very irregularly. So the doctors supposed to identify disability in the military are not trained properly. He's seeing that, and he wrote a report about it. So no wonder they never gave me help, right? Back in those years, 1994, they makes something so simple, so confusing. Here's another thing. What they're discussing in my lawsuit is Department of Navy Disability Evaluation System. This is going to be the fundamental instruction manual of the disability system, which they're going to discuss in my military lawsuit, which you've seen some of the blurbs out of there. But right here, this 300-something page manual, which includes optimum hospital medical treatment, point of hospitalization treatment when a member's progress appears to be stabilized, or when following administration essential initial medical treatment, the patient's medical progress being capable of performing further duty can be determined, physical disability, all these things will never get to you, but they'll still say it. So you never went through this system, you never were protected by that system, you never actually went through this system, you never got optimal medical care, but then they'll still say you're fit for duty. So basically, they say you're fit for duty going off a manual you never went through, a system you never went through. And that's how debaucherous it is. This goes over all the things they should have done while you're in the military, which would have protected you if they actually followed that manual, this instruction. But they never did. But then they're still apply it to you. So, again, cutting corners, stepping things in federal court, 2025. Again, manual of the medical department. Again, all the things they should have done, they never did, including occupational illness and injuries assigned to the ship. They could have reviewed you for occupational injuries while you're in the military. Never did. So you just, I can go on and on and on. Now here's the great one, right? This is the report that shows that everything you were involved in was shut down. Institute for Defense Analysis. And look at what it says. Evolution Military Current Active Reserve Force Mix. So this right here shows that your ships, the Naval Reserve Fleet, disappeared. The ships you were on, they were termed the NRF. The frigates were disappeared. They it says right here, these FFGs, this is the year you were in. There's a few of them, they start going down, they disappeared them all. There's only 16 ships out of 454, 16 ships that had this classification. That you were on one of them. And it says, the FFGs have been part of the Navy's Battle Force Sign of Fleet Forces Command and have conducted operations in the same manner as active duty Navy ships. So here, it was an active duty ship. It was undermanned and used a reservist like me to maintain the ship. And I didn't get benefits of it. And here it is, the last one is the assignment, the ship was an experiment. Now what about the Sea Air Mariner program? They shut it down. They shut the Sea Air Mariner program. However, this program proved unsuccessful because its benefits and obligation compared unfavorably to Army and Air Force programs. So the Sea Air Mariner program was shut down. So you not only was your enlistment shut down, which we've seen before, it was already shut down the year you signed it, and here is confirmation of it, because the Army and the Navy are running things better, Army and the Air Force, for their reserve enlistment programs. Your SAM program and the ships, everything was shut down. There's one report that targeted both things and explained the situation. But the government in their federal lawsuit won't acknowledge what you're actually dealing with. Everything, how extreme it was. Try to go through it again. Some details. God damn it. I'm gonna have to do this again, but here's a good one. Individuals in equipment-intensive high technology fields such as those found more often in the USNR and U.S. Navy reserves, a ship, combat ship, Air National Guard aircraft, U.S. Air Force reserves aircraft. Usually are more experienced and therefore older, but in the Navy reserves, so you'll see the 6, 17, and 19-year-olds and then 93, 1.8% were 18-year-old kids. Otherwise, you're older but I was in that 1.8%. A fraction of the Sea Air Mariners. I was the smallest, the youngest, and I ended up on the high end, on a ship. Again, it's more than extreme. And I wish this knowledge would be acknowledged, because it points to everything that you're dealing with now, why you needed help. Additions to here, the Navy studies musculoskeletal disorders for ships, motion-induced interruption, postural equilibrium, linear lateral accelerations. Again, the Navy studies, naval research, the ships and their problems, how it makes musculoskeletal problems, which is the reason I was shut down from transferring the Army. And you can see, this is what I was dealing with back then. I felt it. They never gave me treatment. Although I complained on the ship and I tried to transfer the Army, they wouldn't give me medical care. And now they say they have no reason to maintain me or protect me. So, where can you get justice? Again, I can go on and on and on. It's going to be so extreme. This right here, I believe, is Social Security stuff where a few years after military, I was already in a psych hospital. Within months, I was in a psych hospital, honorably discharged. They said I was able to RE1. I found out later I didn't attempt to re-enlist, but they said I could re-enlist. RE1, best enlistment code you can get, re-enlist, because I was such a good sailor. I never complained, although I was in pain. Just similar to those Navy SEALs that you were referencing earlier, guys dragging his leg And the other Navy SEAL instructor was like, yeah, these guys will never quit. That's what they're looking for. And but I didn't know I was having this medical problem, which is a psych injury. And the psych injury was being I was being hospitalized. Here's documents to that effect. But I never knew how to explain it in consideration of connection to the ship until recently when I found the reports. Otherwise, I was just oblivious to the connection. It's like, didn't know that getting your head hit in the NFL would cause concussions. So you were just like oblivious to your own cause and effect, which very unusual because the military studies this stuff, as I've shown, right? Now, what do they study? Look at this. This is insane. Department of Navy, they actually said 1995, the Inspector General said that there's systemic weakness in the training and administration of sellers personnel assigned to the NRF ships. And this is a duplicative of 1998. They did it twice. In the years I was assigned to the ship, 1994 and 1999, two separate Inspector General reports that state, there was the same issue. Not enough training or systemic problems of training administration. So the Navy knew something wrong with those units. My assignment to the ship, and there were systemic problems in training administration, which I've complained about the whole time. That's why I tried to join the Army. I didn't know that the Navy Inspector General was documenting it. Here's their proof, but even with this proof will not be put into the federal lawsuit at all. Not at all. And everything was fine in the Navy. Why did you get injured? Well, we don't want to talk about, we knew something was wrong with the ship. So you don't get any help, no matter what your medical problems are. We can never talk about our own reports and the cause and effect, connect these two dots. You didn't tell they'll blame you as a kid. Here, let's go into another thing. Here, the reason they had those NRF ships, cost benefit analysis at NRF, Naval Reserve Force frigates, it's frigates I was on, was to save money on manpower. And look at this. They only saved $1 million. The actual financial savings realized operating Oliver has repaired FFGs, class frigates, and NRF biased the active force to fully manned FFGs, approximately $2 million per ship. Core crew policy on our ships. This policy staffs the ships with only 75% of the required full-time personnel. The NRF personnel costs amount only 80% active ship costs and account for 66% or $1,409,000 of the overall savings. So anyways, they're just doing it for money, but they shut it down. They now schools, FGs, and NRF are not the most cost effective. So they only saved $1 million, I guess, but they weren't factoring in all the injuries. They didn't care about the injuries or all the other problems. They're like, we can save money on manpower, but like the ship wasn't being maintained well, or just stressed everyone out. Here's another one. They had another report documenting it from the Naval War College, Navy War College, same year. I was on the ship, 1995. I was joined in 1994, and by 1995, the Navy War College is putting out reports saying, tell the truth. Can the operational commander rely on the advertised capabilities of Naval Reserve Force surface assets? The same FFGs, and here's the manning policy. Active duty ships had 221 guys. The active duty crew in the NRFFG was 150, and I was there part time to make up the difference. Part time, yeah, right. Where was the training? No wonder it's systemic problems. And this is manpower data from the Navy War College. Intelligent, caring parents do not take their children to medical surgeons who only practice surgical medicine 38 days a year, or 24 of those days a man they attend to the full surgical team. As long as the NRFFG go to sea and their current computer, they're dangerous to themselves and operational commander. So when they do man 16 of the 51 FFGs were undermanned in the NRF. The other ones were fully active duty, fully staffed. And the FFG class, only 70% are allowed of manning and save. The anytime national crisis will augment these crews with quality personnel with less than 24 days of integrated training. It's obviously a fucking sham. And I did try to get out of it by joining the Army. Trying to get through this. I mean, again, these are just the denials. I have to pick this up later. These are the denials from the VA. They didn't want to admit that the ship injured me. So I made a quick thing. Then I went to court, and this is when I was in court, still in court, and supposedly I won my case or got an admission of guilt somehow, but so they gave it back to the Navy. They said but the Navy attempted to they just kept on repeating the same argument. You were fit for duty. No matter what your medical records say, you were fit for duty because you had good service. And I'm just showing you some of the records here. You can blow them up. It's gonna say insane stuff. This is the Board of Corrections saying that you never deserved help. You were a good sailor. No, we don't care what your medical records say. Won't and you, so insanity. And then here's another Board of Corrections. And blow that up. I mean, I went through 3 or 4 Board of Corrections remanded from the federal court. Same argument. You don't deserve it. Yeah, it's like, why do you cut yourself? And they're like, well, because if I cut myself, then it would just be like stupid Aaron's cutting himself again. And, this is how they do it. They just want you to cut yourself. I mean, it's stupid, right? Because you're not supposed to cut yourself. I'm not cutting myself, I'm just scratching, all right? Let's get real. But it's stupid, man. That's how they want you to do it. Because if you cut yourself on really deeply, then you might. But they want you to be stressed out, I guess. I don't know what they want. That's sort of a wicked game. I always wondered what the process of this was, but I'm learning as I go, and it's pretty vicious, man. More than vicious, it's backwards, it's diabolical. And, you know what I mean? I mean, it's something that you're going to make up. Plenty of records to show it. I'm just using first grade logic. Maybe I just needed a little psychiatric help in the Navy before everything fell apart, and they would have helped me. But, I can't believe it's like that hard to fucking prove that, like they if you worked at McDonald's, you probably get better help. Goddamn, man, I have a lot of stuff in that federal court. Blow it all up. Same arguments, though. They just keep on. You were fit for duty because you had the best service. And the argument never changes. You get nothing. It's not like a lot of money either. If they granted you benefits for disability instead of honorable discharge, which is not disability discharge, then you might be it wouldn't be a lot of money. They're just insanity the way they would fight you on that. The only way you can get help from the government is having a disability discharge, as opposed to, they don't want to give it to you. And so here's the last one, 2025. They threw it out, federal claims. They said something to the effect. as well explain the medical state. So they recognize that you tried to attempt to get out of the Navy by going in the Army, but you were kicked back for, and they said that wasn't good enough evidence of anything. I'm going to go into the current one. It's an appeals court, so we're almost to the end here, but so we'll just see. It says that I was qualified for Social Security disability like only a couple years after discharge, very irregular. I wasn't military discharge. I was just in a psych hospital, and without even knowing the military injured me, I was just confused and injured. And they were like, "Well, what's wrong with you?" I had no idea that it was connected to my military service. I mean, I guess upon questioning, I probably could have told you that, but they weren't. It was never like informed upon me. I wasn't really sure how to discuss it. Now I'm able to discuss it with all the reports and all the fact finding, and I'm really sure now. I'm like, wow, this is easy to see. But then it was like, nah. And all I'm trying to do is finally tell my story correctly, because if you can't tell your story correctly, I mean, shit, you have no idea what college you went to and what your education was. I mean, what the fuck is your life going to be like if you can't get any knowledge of your 8-year reserve enlistment? I mean, you're confused about it. You know, it's like 8 years of your life that you would like say, oh, maybe you should understand it. It's a cause and effect. The government's like, well, we don't care. We don't want to see our own reports. We'll not even talk about them, how they connect to, we'll say you don't deserve help. See, here's another one. I didn't get a DD-214. I didn't get enough active duty days. A routine medical examination was conducted in the Navy in 1999. This is the government statement. Mr. Hassay was suffering from history of depression, required medication. They even admit that I was suffering, but not suffering enough to get help. No requirement to help me. 1998, here it is. While still in Navy Reserve, I attempted to enlist in the United States Army. I was given a physical evaluation where they said I had a spinal and musculoskeletal issues, and psych left open. They gave me a psych eval, and they just left it open because they didn't send me out to I think they just didn't finish up their paperwork. So, but I told them, and I did go through a psych eval, dude. They sent to the military correction board, required to get forward. They say they have to give liberal consideration. They don't give you liberal consideration to correct your records. Fight me over that. They don't want to give you any benefit, any consideration to ever help you. It's always a presumption of regularity means like the government officials. Here it is. Presumption of regularity to support the official action of public officers in absence of substantial evidence to the contrary will presume that they have properly discharged their official duties. So the government always relies on presumption of regularity, meaning we've done everything correctly, and in this case they're like, yeah, injuring you, putting you in the streets, no care, no knowledge. It's completely support official action of public officers, absential evidence, contrary will presume they have properly discharged their official duties. This is properly discharging their official duties. The play on words, they don't even realize how debaucherous it is. But they say that, you know, we didn't treat you, we never cared for you, we never did an occupational awareness assessment on you, we never educated you on anything, so we properly discharged our duties. Where would that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. Upon application, BCNR determines whether there is an error in justice of records current from members of the Marine or Congress authorized the Secretary of the Military and acting through their or civilian to correct or remove an injustice in the military record. I've been in the BCNR. Same, they will never correct my records because they said I was fit for duty because I was a good member. They say the following criteria include assessment medical condition presents as decided medical risk to health of the member or welfare of the member, and the medical condition poses unreasonable requirements on the military to maintain or protect the member. Mainly, before they say you're fit for duty, they have to do these steps, review these concepts. They never did in my case in the Navy. They don't wait 20 years to look at that. They're like, well, something's wrong. We're gonna do these things, give you medical care, whatever, see if it works. Then we're gonna make our determination. Long story short, now they're reviewing me for it. Like, well, insanity, right? They never did it, but now they're questioning it through something, a system, a process. Like if you were to say, I never gave you proper care for your heart, you had a heart attack. 20 years later, you question, I had a heart attack. I was at the doctor's office or something, and they never did any treatment of me. And but then then they go through this is what you should have done for treating someone's heart condition. They never did it, and so then they'll 20 years later look at it, but they'll not acknowledge that they never did any of it leading up to your heart problem, heart attack or other problem. But in this case, they won't acknowledge. It makes no difference that they never did it. Like and at the moment when it was necessary. At the current time, because that would be some kind of negligence, medical negligence or some kind of negligence, not what they call in my estimation, they say it right off the top that discharging your duties properly. They don't discharge their duties properly. They don't. These are duties they're supposed to do properly. They never did it. Never gave you medical, never reviewed you for but here it is. Impose unreasonable requirements on the military to maintain or protect the member. Remember that statement? They already said they had no requirement to maintain or protect you. So this doesn't apply, because with the benefit of hindsight, they're saying we never had to maintain or protect you. But you were still fit for duty because they didn't have to protect me. The only thing they have that they can say I was fit for duty is that I survived it, no matter if I had a disability, and they had no duty to actually care for me. So I was sort of stuck, right? I'm going to go back up here. So this is current 2025. I'm in appeals court. These are the attorneys that are defending the government, making these statements. Pretty crazy. I don't know, man. I don't know why they'd want to make that kind of precedence. And discharging their duties properly to make it seem normal to injure a kid in the military and put them in the streets with no benefits, no knowledge. I'm just going to keep on rolling through this thing. The Board of Correction found it had not done an error in justice and military separation. Again, same arguments. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I think I'm going to have to finish this up and find it online because I'm getting a little tired. Let's see if we can do anything. Because even Dr. Foote conceded that it was following. So